SATA, NVMe, M2 Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5, U2, TLC, QLC. That's a lot of acronyms for one storage component. Somehow, buying a drive turned into an alphabet soup exam. And the kicker is that two drives can look completely identical on the outside while performing nowhere near the same speed. So let's fix that. Here is every type of SSD, what it is, what it does, and whether you actually need it. 2.5-inch SATA SSD. This is the one that kicked off the consumer SSD revolution and saved millions of people from spinning drive purgatory. It's a flat rectangular slab about the size of your palm. It connects to your motherboard with a SATA cable, exactly like a traditional hard drive did. Think of it as a hard drive that finally hit the gym and stopped making those horrifying clicking sounds. The speed story is the whole point. A spinning hard drive moves data at around 100 to 150 megabytes seconds on a good day. A SATA SSD hits around 550 megabytes read and 520 megabytes write. That's a 4 to 5 times improvement the moment you swap one in. Boot times drop. Programs snap open. The whole machine just breathes easier. For everyday tasks and gaming, a 2.5-inch SATA SSD is completely adequate even in 2025. Even older builds benefit enormously from swapping a spinning drive for one of these. It's still the cheapest entry point into SSD territory and worth every dollar. The myth that you immediately need something faster. If your machine has SATA ports and no M2 slot, this is still a perfectly good answer. M.2 SATA. Here is where the confusion officially starts, and the tech industry absolutely earned it. M.2 is a form factor, a physical shape, not a speed rating. An M.2 SATA drive is a slim little stick that plugs directly into your motherboard. No cable needed. It's roughly the size of a stick of gum and sits flat against the board. But here's the catch, the speed ceiling is completely identical to a 2.5-inch SATA drive, still around 550 megabytes read and 520 megabytes write. The drive is smaller, but the interface underneath is the same SATA protocol. The M.2 slot on your motherboard supports both SATA and NVMe drives, and those two are not the same thing at all. Choosing M.2 SATA over 2.5-inch makes the most sense in laptops, compact builds, or whenever cables give you a headache. The mistake people make constantly: seeing M.2 in a product listing and assuming it's fast. An M.2 SATA drive and an M.2 NVMe can sit side by side and differ by up to 10 times in real-world throughput. The M.2 slot is a trap for the uninformed. M.2 NVMe Gen 3. This is where storage got genuinely exciting. NVMe stands for Non-Volatile Memory Express. It's a protocol designed specifically for flash storage. SATA was an afterthought for SSDs. NVMe was built for them from day one. Gen 3 NVMe uses PCIe 3.0 lanes to move data, and the jump is massive. Sequential read speeds land between 3000 and 3500 megabytes. That's roughly 6 times what SATA can do. If SATA is riding a bicycle, a Gen 3 NVMe just pulled up in a sports car. Boot times feel nearly instant. Large file transfers happen in a blink. The key specs to actually care about are sequential read and random 4K read speed. Sequential is the headline number on every product page, but random 4K is what you feel during daily use. Opening apps, loading game levels, switching between big projects. Gen 3 NVMe also works in PCIe 4. 0 slots at full Gen 3 speed, so it's not wasted in a newer build. It's still one of the best storage values around, affordable, available in large capacities, and capable for gaming and content creation alike. The myth that sequential speed is all that matters. It's not. Random 4K tells the truer story. If you've spent years confused about the difference between M.2 SATA and M.2 NVMe, honestly, same. Drop any questions in the comments. I'll actually answer them. M.2 NVMe Gen 4. This is the tier most people default to when building in 2025, and for most workloads that's a fair call. PCIe 4.0 support arrived on AMD platforms in 2019 and spread to Intel's mainstream lineup, with 12th Gen in late 2021. Gen 4 NVMe roughly doubled the sequential read ceiling over Gen 3, up to around 7,000 megabytes on top-end models. That number sounds absurd. In practice, the felt difference between Gen 3 and Gen 4 for gaming is smaller than most people expect. Load times improve, but not in a twice as fast way. Where Gen 4 genuinely earns its keep is in creative workloads. Think large video files, big raw photo libraries, and AI datasets that constantly need to move. Gen 4 also runs warmer than Gen 3 and often benefits from a heatsink. Keep that in mind for slim laptop builds. It's like a sports car that runs a little hot in traffic. Impressive, but with real trade-offs. The mistake: spending the Gen 4 premium when your main workload is gaming and streaming. You're buying speed that benchmark software will celebrate far more than you ever will. M.2 NVMe Gen 5. Gen 5 is for people who see the phrase fast enough and take it as a personal insult. It's the supercar of SSDs, something you buy because you can, not necessarily because you need to. Sequential read speeds on Gen 5 drives go north of 12,000 megabytes/second. Some top options push past 14,000 megabytes/second. That's roughly 4 times Gen 3 and double Gen 4. Here's the honest catch: these drives run hot, very hot. Sustained writes can trigger thermal throttling without a proper heatsink. Gen 5 also carries a meaningful price premium over Gen 4 for the same capacity. You'll need a PCIe 5. Zero-compatible motherboard too. That means Ryzen 7000 series or Intel 12th Gen and later. For most users in 2025, Gen 5 performance shows up in benchmarks and not much else in daily life. It makes real sense for extreme data pipeline work, AI inference, or heavy video production at very high resolutions. The myth that Gen 5 will make your games load noticeably faster than a Gen 3 or Gen 4 drive. It won't. Storage stopped being the gaming bottleneck a while ago. U.2 SSD. Step sideways from M2 for a moment because U2 is real and worth knowing about. U.2 is an enterprise-grade form factor. It looks a lot like a 2. 5-inch drive but uses an entirely different connector. It's built for servers and workstations that hammer storage all day without rest. Think of it as the SSD that clocks a full shift every single day and never burns out. Under the hood, it runs NVMe over PCIe, so sequential speeds are competitive with consumer NVMe drives. The real differentiator is endurance. Consumer says this is measure endurance in TBW. Total terabytes written over a drive's lifetime. U.2 drives measure endurance in DWPD, drive writes per day. They're designed to rewrite their full capacity multiple times every day for years on end. They're thick, heavy, and expensive. You almost certainly do not need one. If you're running a workstation packed with 8K footage or a small always-on server, it might be worth exploring. For everyone else, this is genuinely excellent dinner party knowledge. The mistake: assuming enterprise automatically means better for consumer use. The endurance is real, but the cost premium isn't justified outside of professional environments. If you've ever used a U.2 drive in a personal build, I want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you were doing with it. External SSD. Not everything needs to live inside a tower, and the portable SSD has become a genuinely great category. These are compact drives, often an M.2 NVMe or SATA inside a slim housing, connected via USB or Thunderbolt. They're used for backups, file transfers, and expanding storage without cracking open your laptop. Speed depends almost entirely on the connector, not what's inside the housing. USB 3. 2 Gen 1 tops out around 500 megabytes/second. USB 3.2 Gen 2 pushes to roughly 1000 megabytes/second. Thunderbolt 3 or 4 connections can reach 2500 megabytes/second and beyond. Plugging a Thunderbolt SSD into a standard USB-A port is like running a fire hose through a drinking straw. You get drinking straw results. The biggest purchasing mistake: buying a fast external SSD without checking whether your port can actually use that speed. One more thing: most consumer external SSDs are not ruggedized unless the box clearly says so. Drop one on a tile floor, and you may be having a very bad afternoon. NAND types. Here is the layer most buyers skip entirely, and it quietly shapes how your drive performs over time. All SSDs use NAND flash memory, but different drives store different amounts of data per cell. And that changes everything. SLC, single cell, stores 1 bit per cell. It's the fastest and most durable NAND available. It's also expensive and lives almost exclusively in enterprise and industrial hardware. MLC, multi-level cell, stores 2 bits per cell. It was the consumer sweet spot for years. Solid speed, solid endurance, solid price. It's largely faded from the mainstream market now. TLC, triple-level cell, stores 3 bits per cell and is what you'll find in the vast majority of consumer drives today. It balances speed, endurance, and cost well enough to be the practical default. QLC, quad-level cell, stores 4 bits per cell. Think of packing 4 people into a 2-person tent. It technically works, but everyone's a little worse off. QLC drives offer higher capacities at lower prices, but with lower endurance and slower sustained write speeds than TLC. They work well for cold storage and read-heavy tasks. For heavy daily writes, TLC is the smarter pick. The mistake: choosing a drive based on brand and price alone without checking what NAND type is inside. So there you have it, from the 5-inch SATA that ended the spinning drive era to Gen 5 NVMe, moving data faster than most workloads can even use. M.2 hides more complexity than the name lets on. U.2 is enterprise territory most of us will never touch. And NAND type is the hidden spec that decides long-term reliability. Now you can read a product listing without immediately wanting to close the tab. What SSD are you running right now? SATA, Gen 3, Gen 4, or something even older? Drop it in the comments. If this cleared things up, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel. Next up, we're breaking down every type of RAM, and yes, it has the exact same problem. Way more types than anyone warns you about. Click the video on screen right now.